apologize for keeping you waiting. We're waiting for some paperwork, so thank you. I'm going to call this meeting of the Rockford Board of Education to order at 7:18 p.m. Would you please call the roll? Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Rollins?
Here.
Ms. Mohammed?
Here.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Here.
Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 7 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We're now going to take a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to remind everybody as we start this board meeting that the mission of the Rockford Public Schools is to collaboratively engage all students in a first-class education for a changing world. And before we go any further, thank you, Connor. He was working behind the scenes to produce the board's broadcasts via YouTube live stream and Comcast Channel 20. Excuse me. We are now at the petitions and communications portion of our meeting, when we invite the public to make comments. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees the right of citizens to petition their government, as well as provides for freedom of speech. Also, the Illinois School Code requires that there be a time at regular and special meetings for public comment. Thus, we are following those mandates during this petitions and communications portion of our agenda. According to Board Policy 2.230, the public comments portion of the meeting is limited to a total of 30 minutes. The board will not respond to the comments at this time. If it is appropriate, you will be contacted in a timely manner by a staff in response to your questions. In order to allow sufficient time for the business of the board and to conduct our meetings in an efficient and effective manner, we are requesting that you comply with the guidelines that are posted. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board. It is not appropriate to address the individual board members or individual administrators, or to discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential in such open meetings. 2 names will be called at one time: the ones whose turn it is to speak and the person who will speak next. When you are the second person, please come to the front and sit in the vacant chair. That way we'll be able to devote the maximum amount of time to public comment. If you look on your left, you will see the 2 digital clocks. One shows the total time allotted to public comment, and one shows the total time for each speaker. We thank you for your interest and for your cooperation with our guidelines. Our first speaker this evening is Mike O'Toole. And if Grace Attica could please come up and sit in the vacant chair, or you can stay where you're at. You're right next to him anyways, no problem. All right. Mike, and is the light on that microphone?
Oh, it was red.
Perfect, thank you.
Good evening, school board. Last month was my first time attending a school district 205 meeting, but I didn't speak on the face mask issue, which I wish to speak tonight. And if students are in the room tonight, you'll notice that you didn't require face masks for this board meeting. It was only recommended. And that's the policy that I'm encouraging you when you do a vote to only recommend. Because if you consider face masks to be a safety issue of personal protection equipment, you're delving into an area that OSHA, agency of the federal government, deals with. even if you decide that it's only recommended for students but required for teachers and support staff. And precedent was set by OSHA in many cases that an employer who mandates safety protection equipment is responsible for paying for that protection equipment. I'm coming from not a parent's perspective, from a taxpayer's perspective. I don't want you to be paying for the face mask. I believe our wealthy billionaire governor puts chump change out of his pocket, saving every school district, public or private, from not having to. I don't want to see any parent, whether the household supports wearing face masks or not, to decide that they're going to withhold just the school board's portion of the real estate property tax bill. Or they send their child with no face mask. Your school district, which I live in, will have to provide them daily, every student, with a face mask, and that applies to every teacher, every support staff individual. If they decide, regardless of what, they just decide that they don't want to be paying for the face mask anymore out of their personal budgets, let our governor pay for it. It's chump change to him. He could save your school board district from its budget, not have to pay for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next is Grace Attica, followed by Michael O'Neill. Oh, it didn't come through on here, but thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Grace. I was asked by some of the people here to speak to the Rockford School Board because they saw at a meeting that I collect information, and I'm also very passionate about keeping children safe. I have submitted today a packet of information to the board to make an official request that the board give a copy or make the information available to all the principals, teachers, and staff in all the Rockford schools so that everyone can make informed decision regarding the COVID shots that may be mandated soon, I don't know, and the masking. The information in the packet shows why masking for long periods of time actually causes people to get sick, and how poisonous and harmful these COVID shots really are. Many people have already been physically injured or died from the shot called the COVID vaccine. It's in the packet. The mainstream media is not reporting on these. We ask that you allow all the school staff, teacher, and children the freedom to wear a mask or get a COVID shot. We are asking for our God-given constitutional right to choose. If you decide to force, pressure, entice, or trick any children into getting the COVID vaccine after my submission of these relevant information, you will have blood on your hands because there are people dying out there due to this shot. Inflammation of the lung and heart cells getting totally destroyed. And please know that Father God is watching all of us right now. And I pray that you will make the decision which is truly good for the children of Rockford. Also know that we have the right to say no to even authority figures or government officials if they are corrupt or are trying to take away our lives.
Thank you.
We have the right to bring. Thank you.
Mike O'Neill.
Class action lawsuit.
Thank you. Michael O'Neill, followed by Jeremy Ramsey.
I always feel like you ever see 2001: A Space Odyssey? I always feel like I'm talking to hell, you know. Oh, Mr. O'Neill, just a joke. Anyway, my time started. Okay, I'm Michael O'Neill. I was here in June. I spoke on critical race theory. I was opposed to this theory, and I know the theory is a graduate level course, and all of you have said that you don't teach it in public schools. However, a derivative of that, I think I see everywhere. Okay, I see it not just in schools, but everywhere. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight. I'm going to use the remainder of my time to talk about the mask, because our governor just issued a mandate that children will be masked, okay? What I want to ask you is, as board members, is to consider when you do that, if you do, I think you can still oppose the governor's order. But if you go ahead and choose this, remember that the kids, you're affecting kids, okay? All kids, no matter what their ethnic background, you're affecting kids by whatever decision you make. The kids are not your kids. They're the parents' kids. Amen. So you're affecting the parents' kids for whatever mandate you choose. Now, I challenge you, if you think this is a right course, I challenge you to provide undisputable scientific fact, data, that shows, number one, that masks are effective in preventing the spread of COVID. I challenge you to do that for the parents. Provide that information. Number two, that masks are not psychologically or physically harming the kids. Convince the parents that this is true. These are two challenges to you, that you would provide this data. And I want to close with, you should be listening to parents more than 2 minutes. I encourage you to bring a special session, invite parents in, and dialogue with the parents. A lot of parents are very concerned with this.
Thank you.
Please dialogue. Thank you.
Jeremy Ramsey, followed by Carly Chandler.
Thank you. My name is Jeremy Ramsey. I'm an attorney here in Loves Park, Illinois. I wanted to inform you of some things that I'm sure you all know, but this will be a possibly good refresher. Article 4, Section 4 of our United States Constitution indicates that we have a republic, not a democracy, a republic. A republic means that our elected officials are public servants. They are to do the will of the people. Our governor does not make laws. Our legislative branch is intended to make laws. So when our governor issues a mandate, again, it is not law. What I will tell you is the emergency rules or emergency laws that our governor has been using have had a 30-day limit as in a ceiling, not a jumping off point. Not every 30 days he gets to make another unconstitutional law, which it's not a law. You do not need to follow these mandates. They are not laws. They are actions by a tyrant, by someone who hopefully will no longer be our governor soon. I will tell you, you've probably heard a lot of information that masks don't work. They don't prevent the spread of COVID. The vaccine does not prevent the spread of COVID. It lessens your symptoms, but it does not prevent the spread of COVID. There have been more people who have died from the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, than any other vaccine in the history of vaccines. You can check this. It is not safe. It does not help things. There will be lawsuits filed. I hope people will contact me as an attorney and file lawsuits for the mask mandates and the vaccine. My last 25 seconds, I'm going to appeal to you as a Jewish man. I'm a Christian, but I'm a Jew. When I was in college, I studied the Holocaust. I asked Jewish people, how did it occur? Did it happen overnight? Did people just say, we're going to do what Hitler wants us to do? No. It was a slow, systematic approach. We are seeing it right now. You need to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Carly, you'll speak next. And Inera McGarty?
She's not going to speak, right? Are you speaking? Yes.
Well, you can decide when your name comes up, which will be next. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carly Chandler. I'm a very concerned parent and resident of Rockford, Illinois. I am here today to warn and alert all parents about CSE. I was very surprised to find out the Illinois General Assembly passed a law mandating that any public school that teaches sex ed must teach a very specific and graphic form of sex ed called CSE. CSE all began with a professor from Indiana University named Alfred Kinsley. Kinsley recruited pedophiles to use a stopwatch and record the number of orgasms experienced by 317 children aged 5 months to 12 years old within a 24-hour period. His research, he defines an orgasm as crying, fainting, having convulsions, screaming, and fighting to get away from the pedophile. Kinsley's criminal research became the philosophy behind CSE. He is the father of CSE. CSE is designed to change the sexual and gender norms of society. CSE promotes high-risk sexual behaviors and encourages even the youngest of children to experiment sexually, teaching kindergarteners about masturbation and gender identity. This is unacceptable. What are the benefits of sex, it asks. Some of the answers include revenge, popularity, trading favors for money and for drugs. Someone needs to be the voice for these children. I don't know where we went wrong and where we lost control, but we need to gain our control back, and we need to stop this. The parents must push back, and it must stop immediately. It's a parent's job to teach their children about sex, not a teacher, not a school board, and definitely not Planned Parenthood. CSE is promoted through Planned Parenthood, which leads me to my question: why on earth is Planned Parenthood involved in our children's education? And even more important, why would the Illinois Education Association partner up with Planned Parenthood to teach our children these things?
Thank you.
I'll end with
Your
this.
time is
I'll
up.
end with
Thank
this.
you.
I'm the last one. I'll end with this. 10 seconds. The scriptures are clear on the dangers of sexual immortality, and equally clear on the parents' role in shepherding kids away from these hazards. Sexuality outside of God's plan never ends well. School board, we will remove our children from the school board system if this continues. I will like a follow-up to my question. Parents, to stop this, go to comprehensivesexualityeducation.org.
Thank you to everyone who took the time to come and speak to us tonight, and also for... Oh, you know what? I missed you. You weren't the last one. I got confused. I'm
is
sorry.
there someone behind
No, it's your turn, Miss
Okay.
McGroarty.
McGroarty.
Thank you.
In our McGroarty, I understand why I might hesitate saying that. Not all of us maybe don't look like we're the parents of great schoolers, but we are grandparents, aunts, uncles, godparents, relatives in one way or the other, and we are really, really concerned about our children. It's confusing when at one point you're told, oh, for 2 weeks, everybody stay home, don't go anywhere, we'll lick this. Then after that, we're told, well, but you should wear a mask. Then science tells us, but when the weather gets hot, this virus will disappear. But it didn't. And then we're told wear 2 masks. And then it's get a shot, and that'll take care of it. And it didn't. And now it's the vaccination didn't do it. So get vaccinated, but still wear a mask. Maybe wear 2 masks. It's darn confusing. And I don't think it proves that science has really found an answer for this. I think children wearing masks all day long is not healthy. I am one who is hard of hearing, and at times I find not only do I need my hearing aids, which I couldn't wear really during COVID, because every time you pull off the mask, the hearing aid falls out. They're kind of pricey to land on the cement and then step on it. But I find often I have to be looking at faces, and I didn't realize I'm lip reading. They're young children you're affecting who, if they have to wear a mask all day long and have any hearing issues, they are affected. Their speech patterns are developed by hearing, repeating, and time up.
Thank you.
3 minutes would be better. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Once again, thank you for everyone who was here, and thank you for waiting us as we completed our business and closed before coming up. I apologize for keeping you waiting. We're now on to board member comments. Do any of you board members have comments to make? Let's start at that end with Mr. Connor.
So I got a text, and so I want to explain something. For decades, the rules of the Rockford Public Board have been, we have a closed session which is closed to the public, which are things like discipline, we do negotiation contracts, et cetera, that sometimes runs over. And so that's been decades. So, we're sorry that we kept you waiting, but we had a full agenda. And so let me just say that, we want to start on time like everybody does. We are volunteers. We don't get paid. So this is all our time too. And all of us, everybody up here has kids in the district or grandkids in the district. So we don't care any less than any of you, and I'll bet any amount of money that there's some political group behind you. And I've listened now twice to this. How dare I? I listened.
What do I do?
No, it's not. This is about your politics. And I'm telling you right now, I am against the mask mandate. I am not a fan of the governor. And I've been listening to this, and I'm telling you right now that we have to follow the law. I don't care what some ersatz lawyer says. The fact is that we are given instructions from the state that we follow whether we like it or not. And the fact that people have misinformation about masks and vaccines, that I listen to science, so you are people who, so all you can do is yell because you have no point.
Thank you,
have no
Michael.
point, so all you can do is yell.
Thank you, Mr. Connor.
I am not calling anybody a name, but I'll tell you what, we look at the facts. We are given both guidance and instruction from the state, and we need to follow that, whether you like it or not. Well,
Thank you, Michael.
no, that's not true.
Okay. Part of, who else would like to speak? Denise, Ms. Pearson,
Thank you.
take the floor.
So I had an opportunity today to visit Kennedy, one of the schools in Subdistrict A, and I had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Ms. Trevita Redmond, phenomenal principal. So I just wanted to commend her for her efforts, and Dr. Jarrett, who allowed her to restructure her team, and they have been very successful. I remember visiting Kennedy a few years ago, and let me finish this thought. So we had a very successful conversation. She shared with me challenges, the accomplishments that she's been able to achieve, and she's done a phenomenal job decreasing expulsion by nearly 75%, which is absolutely phenomenal. So I can't give her enough accolades for the achievement that she's met. Her efforts can be modeled because she's done a phenomenal job. Of course, our students mean so much to us, and their safety means everything to us. And we certainly thank those in leadership for their sacrifice and going over and beyond to make sure needs are met for our students. I did have some challenges, and that's a side conversation for Mr. Phillips, and the structure of the building and parking and that, but it was a very positive conversation, and I look forward to having many more conversations with principals and accomplishments of our students. Again, our students is a priority, and their health is important to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Positive. So let us move on to the superintendent's report, please. Dr. Jarrett, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I do not have a report this evening, Mrs. McCulloch. We can move on to the next section of the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. We now move on to the internal-external stakeholder relations committee items. What we have is a vote on, or an action item, which is the letter of support for the International Women's Baseball Center. And I'm going to ask, I need a motion and a second for that.
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any conversation about that? Okay, it was presented at the Committee of the Whole, and Mr. Siegel said that he had no additional information, so we will call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes?
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And there are no other follow-up items, so we're going to move on to Planning and Development Committee. You have the floor. Mr. Connor? Is that his?
No, that's mine.
It's yours. Mr. Rollins.
All right, so the first item under planning and development and as an action item is the resolution authorizing and directing the preparation of the tentative fiscal year 22-23 fiscal year budget. Just a reminder, we're currently in the 21-22 fiscal year. This is simply the resolution directing the administration to start the work of creating the next fiscal year's budget. So if somebody would like to move to.
So moved.
Second.
Can you call the roll? Oh, is there discussion? All right. Can you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch? Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Are we going to move on to the ESSER?
Yeah, I mean, do you want the committee chairs to do this, or do you want to just go through?
I'll just go through it then. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 6B, ESSER 2 and ARPS or engineering service contracts?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? This was also presented at the committee of the whole. Please call the roll on item 8B, or 6B, excuse me.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Action item 6C is the service agreement with NIU Ed Systems for culinary curriculum support, also discussed at committee of the whole. Is there a motion and a second to approve
So moved.
item 6?
Second.
Thank you. And is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Siegel.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that this is something very much worth our support. I am very excited for the opportunities that this will bring to our students and to some of our business partners in the community. This is an excellent, excellent thing that we're doing.
Anyone else? I would say it's very timely also because of the casino and all the additional hospitality industry needs that will embark on that. All right, result from that. Could you please call the roll on item 6C?
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Rollins, do you have any other follow-up items?
There are no other follow-up items from the committee of the whole.
Okay, thank you. We're now on to the consent portion of our meeting, which includes items previewed by the board committee chairs during the committee of the whole meeting. 7C or 7A is payroll, B accounts payable, C purchase orders from fiscal year 21, D purchase orders from fiscal year 22, E the construction pay request log from 2021, the monthly cash and investment report for June, recurring contracts, which is for the center IRC resources for teaching and learning, the facility rental fee waiver for Literacy Council, the Tier 1 item of SpeechWorks, the Tier 1 item of Snap and Read subscription, and the recurring approval of the Title I school-wide plans. In addition, we have the consent items from the Governance Committee, which are the meeting minutes from 7/13/21, the contract purchase orders, the closed session minutes released, the back-to-school protocols, and the Freedom of Information log. Is there a motion and a second to approve consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any consent items board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? I'm going to ask to have 8D as in dog pulled. Seeing no others, please call the roll on the approval of the consent items not pulled.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
excuse me, Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson,
Yes.
Mr. Rollins,
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed,
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Item 8D is the back-to-school protocols. There is a proclamation that is attached. Oh, before we can talk about item 8D, I need a motion and a second that allows me to do so.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your help, Ms. Fromm. So it's the back-to-school protocols and the proclamation, which authorizes the superintendent to make changes, so long as we're following the mandates given to us by the Board of Health. And what else is on there, Ms. Hoadley? Is there a the wider scope? No, 8. Back to school protocols, the proclamation. Yeah, no. In fact, I'm going to give you the floor, and I'm going to let legal, who wrote the proclamation, explain what's on there, just so we make sure that we're all.
All right, so because of the changing landscape that we face, it seems like every 2 weeks, with different mandates either coming from our local health department, from the state, from the federal governments, it's a simple resolution indicating that the superintendent then would have the ability to respond to any of those mandates, whether it's mask mandates, whether it's any other back-to-school protocols, such as going in and out of remote education, to the extent that that's required as we move on. So, so that's basically what the resolution is. It's a simple resolution.
Thank you. Because if there's further direction that needs to be part of the proclamation before we take a vote on this item, as I had indicated to the rest of the board, we need to decide if there's consensus on whether this would apply just to our school buildings, or, as the administration has suggested, wherever there are children. So that would be school buildings, and so the first floor of this building where children come for registration, or will it apply equally to all buildings in the district? And so I'm looking for consensus or direction from the board on that piece. Don't y'all light up at once.
If we don't all light up at once, does that mean consensus? Just kidding.
I gave 2 choices, so there's consensus that there's a choice to be made, or direction to be given, I should say. So is there anyone, okay, Mr. Rollins.
So I guess, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I'm not looking to expand or to give the superintendent any tighter direction than what's in the resolution, which is, I think, gives the administration the maximum amount of flexibility to respond according to circumstances, and which is probably what I'd be looking for. I guess there are people here, and so I guess I'll just tell you what I'm thinking. I'm not a big fan of masks. I've got 2 kids in the school district. I've got a wife who works in the school district. And I understand a lot of what you're saying, and my preference, if the governor hadn't weighed in, would have been to advocate to let people make their own choices. But I'm not looking, and I don't think it would be wise to pick a fight with the governor either. Whether he has the legal authority to do this, I'm not looking to have the school district pick a fight with the governor. I think you pick your fights. This is not a fight that you want to pick. That also explains why I'm not looking to go beyond what the governor is mandating either. I think that, and we're getting a sample of it today, public health officials at all levels of government people are losing confidence in them. And because they keep changing what they're saying, and they keep changing, they keep moving the goalposts. At the beginning of this, it was about flattening the curve. Who's heard that phrase lately?
Oh.
And then for a long time, we were all focusing on the positivity rate. And, everything was based on the positivity rate. Who's heard that phrase lately? So the CDC's current guidance on masking uses a completely different standard, which they refer to as community transmission. How many people even know what that is? It has nothing to do with the actual number of COVID cases. It has nothing to do with deaths. It has nothing to do with the positivity rate. And they did an about face what they said a month ago, with no actual change in the numbers. So I'm just going to say, I hope we're over this. I mean, my personal feeling is that we'll get through this faster if we get people vaccinated. I know there are people who don't feel safe with the vaccine. I'll tell you personally, I'm vaccinated. My entire family's vaccinated. My children are vaccinated. I've said from the beginning, at the very outset of this, that I don't think people are really doing a very good risk analysis. And I'll tell you, just from a personal standpoint, looking at it for myself and my kids, the risk analysis was get vaccinated. So the more people we get vaccinated, and the sooner we will not have to put up with mask mandates. So that's all I've got to say about it, and I will support the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. I'm just going to go down the line, and we will vote on the resolution, but and I thought it'd be premature but legal told me that we basically kind of need to weigh in on this other piece. We can either put it in there or not, or Dr. Jarrett would just take our what we say as a group without putting it in a proclamation. So I'm just going to go down the line in all buildings or with students, or where there are students. June?
So I guess I have a question. You're talking about where students are, you mean everyone in the building where there are students? Adults and kids?
Correct.
No matter what their vaccination status is?
That is correct. That is the mandate. Correct, Dr. Jarrett?
I would say then where students are, that's the mandate. Why would we make it? Although, yeah, that's what I would say.
Ms. Pearson?
Thank you. So it is important that I heard a wise man say, you're going to need faith with the vaccine, you're going to need faith without the vaccine. We must make sure that we keep the most vulnerable students safe. And contrary to popular belief, we must follow the guidance of leadership that ultimately results in the best of our students' health. I am in full support of the resolution.
For all buildings in the district?
For all buildings in the district.
David?
Notwithstanding one's feelings on wearing masks or not, if we are going to follow the mandate of wearing masks, part of that is creating a culture where everyone understands that, we're all doing the same thing. And I don't think that the cultural aspect of that should be overlooked, that I think that there is some benefit to everybody all being in the same boat, rowing together, et cetera, et cetera. From a purely scientific standpoint, I agree the wearing masks around children is the critical thing. But if you're asking about all buildings, is there some cultural benefit to adults wearing masks when there are no children around? I would suggest that there is. But let's hear what everyone else has to say.
So is that in all buildings or is that schools only? Okay. Ms. Muhammad?
So as someone who is a parent of an RPS student and who also works with children on a daily basis, I personally have worn my mask this entire time, nonstop, and will continue to because that's my personal decision. And I respect everybody's input that you brought forth to us today and that you feel that it should be the option. However, I think that I'm gonna go ahead and go with all buildings so that way there's no confusion. I think in order for the body to follow direction, it needs to come from the head. So that's my stance on that.
I apologize. I was just getting some direction from legal. So
all buildings.
Thank you so much. I apologize. Michael, Mr. Connor.
So I don't like the mask mandate. I'm not a fan of the governor, but, you know, St. Paul did say it. You have to follow those that are the ones in power. And I think Mr. Rollins said it well, that you know, it's really pointless for one school district to say different. So the fact is that from the operational standpoint, it's more difficult, from my view, to not be consistent. So in that regard, it makes it so much more straightforward for everyone as a policy. I would say all buildings.
Thank you. I would also say all buildings. I'm going to ask Ms. Hoadley to weigh in then. Is there anything we need to add to the proclamation before we?
No, but I think clarity needs to be addressed because I don't want to get in a situation where there's any kind of misunderstanding on what you're asking of administration. When you say all buildings, is that when students are present? For example, if there's a faculty meeting at a school after students have left or before students have left and the vaccinated folks are not wearing masks, are you mandating no matter what time of day, whether students are present or otherwise, that you want masks worn, including in this building, for example, if someone's working in their office alone on 7, are they to keep their mask on? So I think that level of clarity really needs to be addressed, which is why I also kept the resolution pretty broad, because there are a lot of different situations where it does need to be very clear on what you're asking. So when you say all buildings, I just don't want to get in a situation where it's not implemented according to the board's will.
Okay. If anybody would like to change what they had to say based on what I'm going to say, please, press your light, because we have 5 of us who are in favor of all buildings, and we have 2 who are in the presence of students. Now, all buildings, there are not students in administration, so all buildings means all staff throughout the district. If you're in a closed office, I think it's reasonable to say that you're alone in a closed office. Pardon? But it would entail us to, yes, resume at a board meeting wearing a mask until things change and Dr. Jarrett follows whatever recommendation comes forward to make that change. So we did have a conversation, as I shared with board members at district leadership team, that I thought that there was pretty clear support for all buildings, even schools, when students are not present for the sake of staff and community. And Dr. Jarrett, you can correct me, you were part of that meeting. Did you hear a similar support for that?
Yeah, I did. I didn't agree with it, but I did.
I know you didn't. Because some of the teachers who were there spoke about how it protected other teachers. So if you're alone in your classroom, I think that there's some reason, but if you are in a building, if you're in a meeting, a staff meeting, those are the kind of situations when we say we're going to be consistent across the district and everybody's going to wear masks, then that's what happens. Is there anybody who would like to change how they feel about that? And then I would ask Ms. Holy, does that have to be part of the proclamation, or Dr. Jarrett has said that he will follow the will of the board on this, and so I don't think we need to do anything legally, but he did ask for direction. Does somebody feel different? Mr. Rollins.
Well, first I'm going to ask for a clarification. You said, so Dr. Jarrett can change it when something changes. Currently, not even the governor is mandating this. So you are asking us to mandate something further than what the governor is currently mandating. Correct. So, just so everybody's clear on that, that's what we're being asked to do. You have to decide that you want to do something that is more than what the governor is mandating, or the Illinois Department of Public Health, or the Illinois State Board of Education. You're talking about doing it in offices, just regular offices in this building. You're talking about doing it at the operations center where there are no kids. You're talking about doing it at after-school meetings where there are no kids. Mr. Zedeker had shared with us the fact that 75% of our REA staff are vaccinated. 64% of our staff overall are vaccinated. And there's not a public health official in this country who has said that vaccinated individuals are at risk. In fact, they all say the opposite. So, I mean, make your decision.
And to be clear, my recommendation is that we follow the very specific resolution that has been proposed today. But I will, as Mrs. McCulloch pointed out, follow up what the will of the board is.
Mr. Siegel.
I'm going to repeat that I feel like what you're asking is a question of what's good for the goose is good for the gander sort of question. And I'm supportive of that. So whatever we are requiring in the schools is what I would also require here. Have we been very clear on what we are requiring in the schools?
I think that's a question for Dr. Jarrett. And when I say if there's a change, it's a change that would come down through the health department with regard to schools and students, and we would just be following whatever that was for the rest of the staff. But Dr. Jarrett, can you answer his question?
The current recommendation is that in the presence of children, so take me for example, if I was under our current recommendation, if I was on the third floor having a meeting with vaccinated people, I would not be required to do that by any health official or the governor. So it would be my recommendation that we would continue to allow that. However, if I were to conduct one of the 100+ faculty meeting or school visits that I do over the course of the year, intend to do over the course of this year, at any point I would enter a school building, as long as this is the current rule, I would be masked up. So what's good for the goose would be good for the gander, in the sense that any school, most of our school officials who work in the district office do work in schools as well. And when we would be in the presence of children, we would. That's what I would recommend, and that's what I would propose.
Yeah, but that's not what Ms. McCulloch is asking.
Correct. But she asked what the rules are, and so that's currently what the rule would require.
But if you were at a faculty meeting, you would not mask because there would not students there.
Correct.
Although teachers indicated when we had our, and granted it was a small selection of teachers, but that's who was present.
Yeah.
Mr. McConnor, thank you.
Yeah. So number one, and may I say for the 100th time, I don't like these. So it's not that it's my personal preference that we do this, but let's point out a few things. Number one, I don't know how you're going to tell somebody is or is not vaccinated. I mean, that's been, in fact, one of the keys on a lot of this is that as you go through, unless you're going to require people to have cards, and now that's, to me, that's very problematic. The second thing is, how do you know when some kids are going to go through? I'm sorry, it's like, and I think Mr. Rollins' argument's a good one, and I thought long and hard on this one, but it's one of those where, you know, it's a pain, and it's not part of, if you will, the pronouncement, but there's almost no way around it when it comes to the enforcement from what I can see. And so I would agree with all of it that it's a pain, but you know, what came down for me is, again, the consistency, because I just think you'd always have to be assessing your situation. You'd have to know who is and is not vaccinated, and there's just so many open questions. That's why in the end, it's a bigger pain, but I would say as a public entity, if we're gonna make any mistake, it's gonna be on, for the safety side.
Thank you. Ms. Stanford?
I don't think that we are talking about policing the vaccination status, are we? We're talking about are children there or not?
No, but no, I'm sorry, I will have to disagree in that what I heard was that we're gonna be with, you know, other adults, and the fact is that you don't know who is and is not vaccinated.
But that wasn't part of the rule, right?
Right, it's not part of the rule, but it's part of the logic that if you say, you know, essentially no masks, you know, you are taking that risk on the no vaccination.
I would assume we'd go under the assumption we've been going on. People who are vaccinated don't have to wear one. People who are not should wear one, and it's an honor system. Isn't that what we've been doing?
That's correct, and everyone has had the opportunity.
Yes, Ms. Mohammed?
My opinion still remains the same for all buildings.
Thank you. All right. What we will do
All buildings for me as well.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. So we are actually going to call a vote on 8D, the proclamation, with the understanding that, and David, I'll give you the floor in a second, that with the direction to the superintendent to make it applicable to all buildings in the district, with staff, unless they're in a private office with the door closed. I don't know how much more direction you want.
I think that is pretty clear.
That's pretty clear, okay. And Mr. Siegel, you had a comment.
So I apologize for having missed yesterday's downtown leadership team meeting. But are you suggesting that the teachers who weighed in on the issue were cool with the idea that if they are in a, I don't know, if they're in a PLC, that they're all going to be masked?
And principals weighed in.
And principals did too?
Yes, principals weighed in on that as well. For them, it was easier, as Mr. Connor said, it was consistent. And they don't want to be a mask police, and
no,
as they said, they know of people
either.
in their building who are not vaccinated, but they're choosing not to wear masks, and so they're not going to police that because it is an honor system, as Ms. Stanford has said. And so this just takes it away, it just takes all that away is what I heard, but I can. Okay. Did you have something else to say, Mr. Siegel?
No.
Okay. I'll ask you to call the roll on 8D.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
No.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 no.
All right. We are now on to the closed session consent agenda, including the following. The appointment of Mickey Rael as a 12-month dean at the multi-tiered system of support. The appointment of Jessica Graff as 12-month interim director of special education. The appointment of Jason Pope as 12-month Director of Recruitment. The appointment of Rani Hamadid as the 10-month principal at West Middle School. Appointment of Julie Skaggs as a 10-month assistant principal at Whitehead Elementary School. The appointment of Jessica Bufo as the 10-month assistant principal at Constance Lane. The appointment of Andrew Motz as the 10-month assistant principal, at Spring Creek Elementary School. Did I say assistant principal for West, Whitehead, and Constant Lane? And if I didn't, those are all assistant principalships. The appointment of Nicole Jensen as the 10-month assistant principal at Nashhold Early Childhood Center. The appointment of Karen Schmitz as the 10-month assistant principal at Bayer Early Childhood School. The appointment of Jonah Perrin as the 10-month assistant principal at Fairview Elementary Childhood School. Appointment of Matthew Zimmerman as a 10-month dean at Summerdale Early Childhood School. And the HR organizational report and addendum. Also, we will be, part of the consent agenda items will be the EIAs for 8235-21, student 8236-21, student 8237-21, student 8239-21, student 8240-21, and student 8241-21. Is there a motion and a second to approve the closed session of consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any closed session consent items board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Ms. Pearson?
10 A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Thank you. Can I take those as a group when it comes to time? Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else have anything they would like pulled? Okay, I'd ask you to please call the roll on the approval of closed session consent items not pulled.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion and second for items 10A, B, C, D, E, and F.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We can't have any discussions, so please call the roll on items 10A, B, C, D, E, and F. They will be voted on as a group.
Ms. Pearson?
No.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 yeses, 1 no.
Thank you. We're now on to board member action steps. I don't have anything from tonight's meeting. Does anybody have anything else that they would like put on the future agenda? So if there's no further comments or agenda recommendations, I'll take a motion in a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye. Any opposed, same sign. Good night. We are adjourned at 8:15.